Welcome back, everybody, to our What's Up World series. And together with me, we have our registered counselor, Rebecca.
Hello, everyone.
To those of you that have joined us for the first time, What's Up World series talks about what's happening in the world, and obviously we will also add on what are the inputs from our side as well as a registered counselor's perspective on the news. So, without further ado, let's start today's episode.
Okay.
But before anything, today's topic will be covering about
relationships.
So to those all the couples over there, if you are just in your honeymoon phase or you've been together for the longest time ever, just stay tuned and just listen to our perspective on these news.
Yes, and if you are single and tuning in, don't fret. This is for you to prepare for your future.
Correct.
Okay, come. Let's see.
All right. So the very first question. Oh, interesting. So there's always a debate, about baby boomers, millennials, and Gen Zs. So this is also relating to that. So this particular article states that baby boomers tend to feel more in love than millennials and Gen Zs. So in this article, it states that 80% of the baby boomers say that they feel more loved compared to 76% of millennials as well as Gen Zs.
Right.
So actually there were many more statistics, but I only extracted one of the statistics.
Data's not your thing, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just too many. If not, this particular episode will be just covering about 80%, 60%, 70%. All right. So, basically, what is your input on why could baby boomers be the one that's more in love compared to the millennials as well as Gen Zs?
Well, love is hard. Love requires effort. So a lot of people, they go into relationships because I do date coaching as well. So some people, they come in with a mentality thinking that, once I get into a relationship, all things will be fixed. Not necessarily. You would actually dig out way more than you realize, and you will discover the uglier sides of you, but at the same time, enjoying the beautiful parts of having a partner. So going back to baby boomers, why are they happier or they stay together longer? 2 cents, my own 2 cents, because I'm not a boomer, is first, it could potentially be because that generation has gone through way more than millennials and Gen Zs. So they have gone through economical crashes. They have gone through bigger pandemics compared to COVID. They have just went through more. And sometimes, the suffrage in relationships and love may not be as big anymore. And they tend to perhaps appreciate what they have, family and all that. So that might be one reason why they tend to stay longer. 2, it could also be a societal pressure thing where, it's all about the face.
Yeah.
Then perhaps they have gotten married already. Then since they have gotten, there's this mentality, since I have been in this thing for so long already, it's okay, let's just tough it out, longer. And it doesn't just apply to marriages, of course, in other things as well. Yeah, so that could be that. And millennials, Gen Zs, we are surrounded by technology too.
Yeah.
And so fast-paced, everything's moving. There are a lot of moving pieces. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing to stay quote unquote committed to one particular thing for a very long time too. So it could be many factors, yeah.
Yep. All right, so moving on to the next article. Ooh,
No.
super long. All right. Oh, interesting. I actually like this.
Yeah.
So it's about love language. So love language might help you to understand your partner, but it's not exactly science. So that's what this particular article says. So basically, it states that love language was discovered by a counselor known as Chapman. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
I guess you did.
Great. All right. So, so he mentioned that for a couple where the love language doesn't match, learning a partner's love language can facilitate communication and elevate misunderstandings. So he argued that if a person can determine and enact their partner's love language, this will pave the way for a greater relationship. So this is the entire idea of love language and why or how love language can play a role in your relationship. So in this article, there were a lot of things that were covered, and at the very last part, they mentioned that whether or not there is science in this particular theory might not matter so much. There is little doubt there's value to be found in expressing your love for your partner in a thoughtful way. So apart from communication, or would you be able to explain to us how love language can encourage two-way communication in a couple?
Right. So there are 5 different love languages for those that are hearing this for the first time. So there's touch, there is words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. So there are 2 types of love languages in a way, where there's one that you receive. So that means when people do it to you, you feel love, you feel valued.
Okay.
There is another one where you give. So it's your natural tendency to give and care. So like, for example, like I have friends who are, I use myself as an example. I am not a gift person. So please don't expect any gift from me. But at the same time, I realized recently that I am quite a gift person when it comes to giving.
Okay.
I just realized that. But it's all very practical stuff. Like if I realize you don't have floor mat, I will buy you a floor mat. Yeah, so it can be different. It can be the same. So the same ones that I have is like quality time. So I like spending time with people. I like people spending time with me. So how does it help? It's really, I always say that no man's an island. We are meant to interact. We are meant to connect and bond. And love languages is just one of those ways where you're telling the person that you are talking to or relating that I care enough to want to learn how to care for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just as simple as that.
Nice. And I think in a podcast that we did very recently, we also covered it, although it was about like work and employer, we also covered about love language.
Correct.
And I remember you mentioned that exploring the love language between your teammate, it can encourage the employers to understand, or the leader to understand their teammate better.
Yes, friends as well. Like I have I'm a huge hugger. I love hugging people. I have this friend that's like very repulsed towards like hugging. So, but she understands that that's my way of giving.
Yeah.
So sometimes she just stands there and she's like squirms while I do it, but she just lets me do it anyway. But for me, I know that she is a very quality time person. So I make sure that I carve out some time for her. So it's, learning to adjust.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's not just romantic relationships. It can work elsewhere, even your family too.
It's honestly something that enable communication and understanding.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, nice one. All right, moving
Next.
on. Okay, this one. Okay, this is pretty wordy. So it states that marriage is a lesser known victim of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, I think we could see it in the news as well, right?
Yeah.
So it has stated that financial problems not only affected non-Muslim couples but also Muslim families, especially in the urban areas. It was mentioned that to prevent more divorce cases, married couples should try to be more resilient and willing to overcome crisis, and also have a strong belief that marriage was a sacred institution.
Right.
So it states that maybe one of the ways that could help couples would be counseling and economic aid as well as relief. So why do you think that right now, or the COVID-19 pandemic opened doors to more divorces?
Okay. So are you guys familiar with the idea of me time? Yeah, so as much as we are connected and we're made to connect and bond, we also need personal space. We can't be around people all the time, even if you're the most extroverted person in the world. So when you close a couple together and just make them stare at each other 24/7, the differences will be even more prominent than it used to be, because at least like it during normal living, you have a few hours away from each other. Then after that, you come back. There's the few hours of quality time and all that. You can sort out your differences.
Yeah.
Even if there's a fight or anything, you can go cool off and come back.
Correct.
In the pandemic, you can't, because you're all locked in the same place.
Yeah.
And not to mention, if your marriage already has, existing problems, then it's going to amplify it even more.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fair. That's a fair point. Okay. Last one. Okay. I think this is like one of our fastest episodes.
Yeah. It seems really short.
No, I think it's because of my voice.
It's okay. You sound very sexy. One has throat problems, one has nose problems. So never mind.
Okay. So this is about, the article's title is, Are You Guilty of the Cool Girl Syndrome? Yes. So, what is this cool girl syndrome? Alright, so social networks are saying cool girl syndrome is when women hide their true selves in order to be one of the guys.
Oh, okay.
The pretty, funny, and laid-back cool girl, the opposite of the needy girl, is a model not to be followed if you want to have a healthy and happy romantic relationship. So it states that when women adopt this behavior, they force themselves to have common interests with a partner, often typically male activities like playing video game, watching sports on TV, and so on. So this basically
Let me read it. Repress some of their emotions and fail to show their true personality. So in the article, it says that it's just a performance.
Yeah.
It might not be a conscious one, but it's the way our society implicitly instructs young women on how to be awesome. So like, be chill, don't be a downer, act like a dude, but look like a supermodel. Oh, that sounds like a very tall order. On the other hand, by letting unpleasant, unsuitable, or inappropriate behavior or comments go unchallenged in the name of staying cool. Because these women can lock themselves into unhealthy or even toxic relationships.
Yeah, and in this article, there was also a part that mentioned when cool girls act cool, right? So what happens is that they suppress themselves and they don't talk to their partners about their problems.
Yeah.
And they even wait for like the partners to, go to bed, or like when they have their me time, they just cry.
Yeah.
And like they break down. So this is like the outcome of being a cool girl.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think, or what's your perspective on this cool girl syndrome?
Well, to address first of all, we're not saying that, women have more problems than men. That's not what we're saying, because I think for men experience a different form of cool girl syndrome. I can't really put it in words, but basically the summary of a cool girl syndrome is fitting into a box so that you could be likable to your partner. So doing a lot of compromises that might be not something that you want to do as well in the first place, just so that you can appease your partner, then your partner can be around. So why do people do this? Honestly, it could just be the fact that they want to avoid being lonely. It's just nice to have a partner around, especially in times of need. Even if the person is not emotionally around, it's comforting, you know, it's self-soothing to know that at least this person is physically around. Is it healthy? Not really. But it's some things that people do too. And it could just be a very people-pleasing culture that we have as well, where we're just like, oh, people need to like me. If people don't like me, that means I'm a horrible person, which is not necessarily the case lah. Yeah.
I think one of the, when you were talking, right, just popped up in my head is that women are known to be emotional,
Correct,
compared to men, right? So that's where like guys, they tend to say, oh, you're just so emotional, so emo, you know. So I think maybe women, they don't want to be categorized that way.
Yep.
So they adopt the cool girl syndrome, or to be a cool girl, right? So which eventually lead to the cool girl syndrome, because you act like you're so tough and you don't express your feelings when it should be expressed.
Correct.
When women, we are more sensitive and emotional, and just denying the entire biological factor of being a woman. And I think that's what leads to the syndrome. And how can, or what's your advice to girls out there, especially young girls, that how can they be cool at the same time they should also be proud and confident about themselves and their emotional availability?
Yeah. It's okay to feel, you know, just because men don't explicitly express their feelings doesn't mean that they don't feel. And it's just because we're wired differently, we express it differently, and you shouldn't be said no, or you shouldn't be told that it's wrong in crying or even expressing how you feel. Yeah. And honestly, both sides struggle with the same thing. We are called too emotional. Men can be too closed off too, because they don't know how to express. They implicitly feel, but they don't know what are the right ways too. So there's no one size fits all kind of thing. So it's really okay to feel, be yourself, and really ask yourself why you feel that way. I think that's important. If the motivation at the end of the day is, you know, I just want to be liked, perhaps there are other healthier ways that can help you do that. It doesn't have to be fitting yourself into that cool girl type. Yeah.
And I think it's applicable to men as well, right? Just
Correct.
like you mentioned.
Yes.
That's another syndrome for men. Men can express as well.
Correct. Right? Just to add on, right? I finally thought of one that men typically do, is that if the girl is very high maintenance, men tend to not say anything and just pay, you know, just to keep the girl happy. And I have heard stories of guys just taking like one full-time job, part-time job here and there, you know, just to cater to the girl's needs. Yeah, that's one form of a cool guy syndrome, I guess.
Yeah. Great way to put it. Yeah. Anyway, so that will be the end of our session today.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining, and hope to see you all in the very next episode.
Bye.
Right now, many people are looking for work-life balance when choosing a career to have a fulfilling and happy life. In Nestspace, we are a gym for mind that empower your mental fitness to excel in your career. Join our classes to learn from industry experts, career coaches, clinical psychologists, and registered counselors that give insight on the career tips, career growth, salary, and self-growth. Check out at Nestspace today. Attend our classes for a career blowout.